إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا فمن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن أعرض عن ذكري فإن له معيشة ضنكا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Guys, life is hard. Life is actually so hard. Like, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, thumma alhamdulillah, some of us, we recognize our blessings. Most of us do, alhamdulillah, but it's so much easier to realize when things are going bad, because they're always going bad, because that's life, right? Literally every day, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, in every single possible way, something is always getting you down, because life is just hard. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, life is hard. Stub your toe, you fall down the stairs, you get in a little argument, a little spat with your siblings, you get in a little argument with your parents, your kid says something to you, you're just like, wow, it's my kid, what's he saying? These things, they like weigh on us. The girl you wanted to marry, she doesn't even like you. The girl you were about to propose to, she gets married. Life's hard, man. Life's actually hard. Your child dies. May Allah have mercy on our children. May Allah have mercy on all of our dead. Your mother gets sick. May Allah cure all of our sick, inshallah. Life is really hard. Some of our kids, they need a snap. Daughter might take off her hijab. Life is hard, man. Like, literally all this stuff hurts. And it's not like it's a day or two, right? The pain just stays and it hurts and it stings. It's not easy. But subhanAllah, when this kind of stuff happens, when these calamities, they hit us, there's only two responses. The first one is, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And unfortunately, the second one, and oftentimes this happens because this is who we are, right? You say, why me? Yo, what I do? Why do I deserve this? That's the unfortunate reality, right? It's either I fall down and I complain, and I just sit there and I wallow, or I just take the hit and I keep walking. Because that's life. Like, literally that's life. We call it jihad, right? Our translation for that has been a holy struggle. What is a holy struggle? It's literally a struggle. We call it that for a reason. Because every single day is hard. Every single day is a struggle. Every single day you get up and you have to do things. Getting up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning to pray Fajr, that's a struggle. Go to work, that's a struggle. Whatever you do in life, it's a struggle. Some are harder than others, but we're struggling out here. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. And the reality is, when these calamities hit, when things befall us that don't really feel too good, if our response is not alhamdulillah, we gotta change that. Because you see, when God's not in your framework, life gets really depressing. It really does. You know, a big reason why most people turn to religion, turn to God, not even just Muslims, just in general, is because of the fact that this world is not just. This world is unfair. We go through so much every day that's just like, wow, why me? You look, there's people just swimming in dough, oppressing people, literally succeeding off the backs of others. And then some people out here, honest, true, hardworking people working 2-3 jobs, just trying to make ends meet. Alhamdulillah, and they're the ones usually being taken advantage of. But you see, what keeps people like us going is, we know at the end of the day, right? Allah tells us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَيَقُولُونَ يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا وَلَا يَظْلِمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. Once you get your book, once you see what you've done, that's the day justice comes. That's when we know. Allah tells us. He makes it very clear. No one's going to be oppressed on that day. And so we believe in God. It makes it easy, right? That's our respite. That's when we're just like, all right, alhamdulillah, I can keep going. Because you see, when God's not in your framework, the unfortunate reality is your already difficult life becomes more difficult. Your already big problems, they become bigger. Because you have no scope, right? You have no marja. You have no place to kind of seek your little, take your problems, take your brain, take your ideas, and just be like, all right, cool. It's not as big as it really seems. Even though sometimes, subhanAllah, they're big. And so once we start to lose sight of our blessings and we forget about the akhirah, this is usually because we turn our eyes away from the only place our eyes should ever be. That's Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah makes it very clear to us. He says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Right? Whoever turns away from my remembrance, whoever forgets about me, they're going to live a life of danak. Danak is a very interesting word. It means severe tightness, right? And that's something probably most of us have felt, right? That extreme feeling of anxiety, where you're just like, oh, wow, I'm suffocating. Life is literally caving in on me. That's because one reason, usually, right? We turn our eyes away from Allah. See, Imam Razi, rahimahullah, he makes an interesting point. He says there's a lot of different ways that this ma'ishatan danka, it manifests. One of them, and I found this so interesting, he says it manifests in a person's deen. Well, it's like, well, you already turned away from Allah, but how does that manifest in your deen? Well, he says, quite interestingly, there's 2 ways this happens. Allah closes the doors of khair, the doors of blessings on a person. And then after he does that, there's no more guidance for that human being. You're done so. May Allah make it easy on us, man. May Allah make it easy on us. Amen. So, earlier in that surah, Allah gives us an example of how we should be acting, right? How we should be remembered. And this is actually one of the most profound examples because it hits deep and it's strong. So the surah starts off, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the beginning of his story with Musa and how, Musa's just chilling one day. They decide they're going to go out. He sees some fire. He's like, all right, let me go see what's up with this fire. Maybe grab a torch, maybe find some direction or something. He goes up to this fire. And all of a sudden he hears, إِنَّنِي أَنَا اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدْنِي وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ لِذِكْرِي. Out of nowhere he hears, I'm God. This thing that he just walked up to is telling him that it's God. Not only that, it's saying, I'm the only God. And you're going to worship me. You're going to perform prayers for me. Out of nowhere. Like just your everyday, looking over, seeing what's behind the corner, and then this conversation happens. It's actually mind-blowing. Like, we can picture it, but you can't really understand how this happens. Or really just, it really is kind of weird, right? It's bizarre, if anything. Because we can't pick, like that will never happen to any of us, but more than just that, it is bizarre. He's talking to God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to his prophet, Musa alayhi salam. And we kind of get lost in that because, we're talking about a prophet, and we're talking about God, and really when you bring it down to earth, it's a bizarre story. But that isn't even the craziest part, right? This conversation is probably pretty short. A minute or two later, after, Musa starts talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah tells him, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Yo, Fir'aun, go take him out. I want you to go take on Fir'aun. All right. We're talking about the most powerful being in the land. The guy who literally calls himself God. He's got armies on armies, he's got everything. And you want this one guy to go take him out. SubhanAllah. And that's not, the most remarkable part is his response to this. See, Musa alayhi salam, he doesn't ask for some super strength, he doesn't ask for an army, he doesn't ask for some super techie gadget suit, he doesn't ask for some impenetrable shield. He's like, I don't need none of that. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Make it easy on me. Untie my tongue, make it so that I can convey your message a little clearer. Clear my chest. I don't want no anxiety when I'm up there. Make this easy on me. SubhanAllah, SubhanAllah. What a response. But this is where it gets really cool. It says, هارون أخي أشرك به أزري وأشركه في أمري. My brother Harun, let him come with me. I'm gonna need his help, maybe. Why though? كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're extracting right here. Why does he want his brother? So we can sit here and worship you. So we can remember you. Because he understands I don't need superpowers. This is God. This is literally the only power on the universe that I need. I take care of this connection that I just built. I take care of this connection that I have. I cultivate it. I don't need anyone. Literally me and God, that's it. That's all I need. All I need help is strengthening, holding on, fortifying this relationship. So what am I going to do? We're going to remember you. That's what we're going to do. SubhanAllah. It's profound, man. Because when it really comes down to it, what do we need in life? Things get hard. By the way, make no mistake, this isn't like the amazing character of Prophet Musa alayhi salam that we're trying to get a message from. It is, subhanAllah, like he's a prophet of Allah, but more so than just that, God put this story in his book for a reason. He's teaching us a lesson here. And he confirms this a couple ayahs on. He tells, this isn't just, Musa coming at him and saying, this is what I want to do. No. Allah makes it clear, this is what you're supposed to do. He says, اذهب أنت وأخوك بآياتي ولا تنيا في ذكري. Go with my signs, you and your brother, and don't you dare slacken. Don't slacken in my remembrance. That is your number one priority. SubhanAllah. SubhanAllah. So remember, this is a guidebook for us. This is a rule book for us. When we look at this, there's only one thing we extract from here. When things get hard, when we face challenges that are literally me against the world, the most insurmountable challenge you can face, what do you need? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Fortify that relationship, and everything after that, peanuts. Easy. May Allah make it easy for us. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. See, there's another beautiful example, not so much a story here, but the Prophet ﷺ probably more or less worshipped more than anyone else, right? We can all say just scripture say that. This guy worshipped more than anyone. It's the Prophet ﷺ. But what always used to get me is there were 10 people he names by name through tongue. These guys are guaranteed Jannah. All right? These guys here at some point in their life, whatever, however old they are, you're guaranteed Jannah. I'm 25, I'm 35, I'm 60, I don't care what age I'm at. Someone tells me I'm guaranteed Jannah, that's it, I'm done. But what is the common factor between all these guys? You really hear this and it's like, I'm not cool, but it's not gonna change the way I worship. Sure, the end game, like the end goal I got, but there's a relationship here, right? I mean, there's a reason they get named, but there's a relationship there. You gotta cultivate. Not only cultivate, this is a relationship we like. There's nothing else I want to do. I mean, we talk about our challenges. Let's not even get into their challenges, right? Literally took on everything. They go from being a small group of people to like the biggest empire in the universe. SubhanAllah. Why is that? Because these people had real sincerity in their belief in God. And they never for a moment faltered. They didn't slacken in their remembrance of God. And that's important, right? And so let's extract this, right? Let's make this a little practical for us as people who, our reality is a lot different. This is 2019, we live in the United States of America. There's less masajid than restaurants. There's less masajid than churches. There's a lot of masajid, alhamdulillah. In general, our reality is not like theirs. And it is kind of unrealistic to assume that we're all just going to start spending all of our days in dhikr and everything's going to be cool. No, I get it, right? We have things to do, we have jobs, we have work, we have school, whatever it is, right? Everyone has their responsibility. But how do you apply this to yourself, right? So, I think first, it's important to recognize that if you pray 5 times a day, that's your baseline, then alhamdulillah, pat yourself on the back. You're struggling and remembering Allah 5 times a day. That's quite a bit, by the way. If you're not there yet, inshallah, you'll get there soon. May Allah make it easy on all of us. But wherever you are in life, make it a point. I always want to improve. At no point in time do I want to look back 2-3 years ago and be like, wow, 2-3 years ago, I was good. What happened? That's a sad state, right? That's when you know you haven't been doing too well. Because the reality is, ghafla, turning away from God, forgetting about God, it's kind of like a meter, right? To where you want your relationship with God to always be like this, as tight as you can. Sometimes you do things you shouldn't be doing, right? Sometimes you say things you shouldn't say. You go places you shouldn't go. That happens. This kind of gets loose. You start to move away. But the Prophet ﷺ, he gives us a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of advice where he says, very simple, very easy advice. Follow up your bad deed with a good one, it'll erase the bad one. Do something bad, you'll stuff it, you'll stuff it, you'll stuff it. I find myself slacking for a couple days now. Spend your night. Make some dhikr that night. Maybe pray a couple rakahs before you go to bed, right? Bring this back. Your goal in life should always be to be here. And when you're here, you should feel anxious. You should be looking forward to the moment to where you close this gap as soon as you can. Because you don't want to be here. This is a bad place to be. Let alone this, but this is right here, it's a bad place to be. You want to be here. So at all points in time, when you feel like there's that gap, bridge that gap. Bridge that gap. It literally doesn't take anything than like stuff really well. Put a little heart into it, put a little mind into it, stuff really well. And so, kind of bringing this back to being relevant, Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah, he says in his book, Ihya Ulumuddin, there's a short passage, I'm going to actually totally reword it, where he's talking about the people who are siddiqeen, right? He says these people, they stay away from anything that makes them forget about Allah or turn away from the remembrance of Allah for even a moment. Now, that's unrealistic. We talked about that. Okay, maybe inshallah, we all become like those people one day or another. And if you're from those people, make dua for us that we become like you. But for the most part, that is pretty unrealistic to spend 24/7 in the mountains. But there's something profound that we can extract from that. And that's, as people, as Muslims, no matter where we are on this scale, you put in your work, right? You create your own spiritual regimen. You make it so that you find a way to create a baseline for yourself. So first thing we hear, and we hear this all the time from everyone that talks about this, is they tell you the most beloved actions to Allah are the most frequent ones, the most constant ones, the ones that we do on a daily basis, a consistent basis. So be consistent with your actions, no matter how small they are, and use that as your base. Once you feel comfortable, upgrade, no problem. But create a base for yourself, and don't slack on that, right? Maybe it's praying all your sunnahs, that's where you want to start. Maybe you're going to do your morning and evening of Qadr, that's where you want to start. Maybe you want to start reading Quran 1 page a day, half a page a day, 1 sentence a day. Maybe you want to read the whole thing a day, I don't know. But regardless, create a baseline for yourself, and don't create something unrealistic and start, faltering and being like, oh, I can't. And of course, by the way, there's days where you just forget and you don't have time. That's cool, right? But just make sure that when one day doesn't happen, then you're just like more cautious about it the next day. You're like, all right, I slacked yesterday, I'm gonna make up for it today. That's realistic. We can all do that. And then, and this is two more things I want to leave you with, right? One, there's this common thing we all talk about, how there's the dhikr of the qalb and the dhikr of the tongue, right? So if like I'm just saying the name of Allah, but it's not like my heart's not in it, then like I shouldn't be doing it, because like, what are you doing? I mean, look, sure, I understand that argument, but I don't think it's fair to say that at any point in time, not having or being silent in general is better than having the name of Allah on your tongue. Have the name of Allah on your tongue. Eventually, someday, somewhere, that's going to be in your heart too. All right? Because if he's on your tongue, he's not far. That's like not even like half a foot, maybe 1 foot, right? But we'll get there. But make sure, no matter where you are, that you're trying to get there. Your end game should be that guy we talked about, who's only spending time in remembrance of Allah. You wake up, you get out of bed, you leave your house, you enter your house, you get in the car, you open up your phone, you make a phone call, you start talking to your daughter, you start talking to your son, you talk to your mom, whatever you're doing, every time you start anything, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Why? Because you're incorporating God into every little thing that you do. That is the most important thing you can do. God first, God last, God always, right? When I enter, when I exit, whatever I'm doing, Bismillah, 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 Bismillah. Because if Bismillah is not on my tongue, I'm going to start slipping up, right? That's a great measure for you, by the way. I pick up the phone and make a phone call, Bismillah. Maybe I shouldn't make this phone call. Get in my car, Bismillah. I'm going somewhere I shouldn't go. Turn around. Bismillah before everything nice. Bismillah, Bismillah, Bismillah. May Allah put the love of His name and His remembrance in our heart. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على رسول الله وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا ابراهيم وعلى ال سيدنا ابراهيم. اللهم بارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى ال سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا ابراهيم وعلى ال سيدنا ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. May Allah accept from us all of our supplications, Ya Allah. May Allah accept from us all of our dhikr, Ya Allah. May Allah open our hearts, and may Allah soften our hearts, and may Allah put the love of His name and the love of His Prophet ﷺ in our hearts. May Allah protect our families, and may Allah protect our children. May Allah only give us tests and calamities that we can handle, that bring us closer to Him. And may Allah protect us from any calamities that will fail and that will take us away from Him. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي المنكر. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه يزدكم واستغفروه يغفر لكم. وأقم الصلاة.